In the icy world, survival is not a right, but a privilege, reserved only for those who know when to strike. Polar bears, the supreme symbol of the Arctic, cannot rely solely on brute strength. Every attack is a gamble. A single misstep can lead to defeat. Swift action, precise calculations, and unwavering patience are the only ways to survive. Beluga whales average 13 to 20 feet in length and weigh around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. Their white skin and agile bodies help them adapt to cold waters. Belugas live in pods and often move with the currents, especially at high tide, when narrow channels near the shore become passageways. But it is at these times that polar bears lie in wait. They memorize the tidal cycle, hiding at the edge of the ice. When the beluga pod swims close to the shallow water, speed is no longer an advantage. The bear plunges down, pouring its entire body weight into the strike. If it hits, the beluga is unlikely to escape, but a miss of just a few inches will send the prey into deeper water. Most attempts fail. The bear wastes precious energy without gaining anything. But the rewards are enormous. A beluga provides hundreds of pounds of meat, enough to live on for many days. Bears understand this, so sometimes knowing when to retreat is also part of survival. Salmon, especially those native to Alaska, typically only measure 24 to 30 inches in length and weigh an average of 8 to 15 pounds. Each year, at the end of summer, they migrate upstream to spawn, creating a vibrant, reddish stream of water, a rare opportunity during a time of scarcity. Polar bears don't miss this opportunity. They approach shallow waters where salmon are trapped in small pools. Not as agile as brown bears, but if lucky, a single successful catch might provide a meal. However, the prey is usually small, not enough to replace a seal or beluga. The bear must expend energy on each missed catch. If too much energy is expended, it is forced to stop. This isn't a large hunt, but enough to sustain survival. Because sometimes, survival is just enough for one more day. Polar dogs, weighing an average of 60 to 90 pounds, are hardy working dogs used by humans to pull sleds and guard camps. Despite being domesticated, they retain their wild instincts, with excellent cold tolerance thanks to their thick double coat. They are pack dogs, sensitive to smells, and often bark loudly to warn from a distance. When bears appear, they move constantly to harass and maintain distance. Polar bears are not easily intimidated. When hungry, they approach the camp silently, targeting food sources. The dogs organize their defenses, but a single claw from a bear is enough to bring down an adult. In one-on-one confrontations, bears always have the absolute advantage. If the dog pack is not large enough, or there is no human intervention, the outcome usually favors the bear. The scene was not just an attack, but a chilling reminder of the harshness of the Arctic environment. Here, every mistake, even by a domestic dog, costs a life. Polar wolves are symbols of resilience and organization. An adult is 3 to 5 feet long and weighs approximately 70 to 110 pounds. They live in packs, have a clear social hierarchy, and coordinate hunting. But success is not high. They survive more on persistence than sheer strength. Polar bears, twice as heavy and with a sense of smell many times more sensitive, often come to steal the prey. As the ice melts and bears come ashore more frequently, clashes occur often. At a carcass, the wolf pack surrounds, howling, but a cold gaze and a single swipe of the bear's claw are enough to make them retreat. There is no actual confrontation, but the advantage is too clear, and the wolves understand that. The confrontation ended in silence, but left a powerful reminder. The environment changes, and all existing order of survival can be overturned. Rapid ice melts the Arctic sea surface, making it inaccessible to polar bears of the breathing holes where seals regularly surface. With their familiar energy source gone, polar bears are forced to adapt to survive. In some coastal areas or rocky islands, bears turn to searching for seabird eggs. Nests perched precariously on cliffs become their new target. Bears climb the slopes, using their noses and claws to reach each nest. The low-calorie but easily obtainable eggs become a temporary food source to sustain them. While the nutritional value of seabird eggs cannot compare to seal meat, in a time of scarcity, each egg is a measure of survival. There is no perfect solution, only the most viable one. This is not a long-term replacement, but a testament to incredible survival instincts. Instead of giving up, the bear accepted a change in strategy, altering its hunting habits that had existed for thousands of years, just to survive one more day in the melting ice. In the Arctic, where resources are scarce and the line between survival is ever thin, not all dangers come from the outside. As the ice melts rapidly and food sources dwindle, internal conflicts begin to arise among bears. These conflicts don't erupt immediately. Bears often stand up, spread their front legs and growl softly as a warning and a show of force, not to fight. Because here, even a small wound can be fatal in the biting cold. However, when hunger strikes, the boundaries are broken. Adult male bears can become a threat to their own kind, even their cubs. In such situations, a mother bear, even weighing only half the weight of her male, will not back down. cubs, weighing less than 30 pounds, are completely dependent on their mother. Every step the mother bear takes is a calculated move, each decision a clear risk. The pressure to protect her cubs is not just an immediate battle, but also affects her reproductive capacity and the survival rate of future generations. Polar bears, the largest land predators, can weigh up to 1,500 pounds. Their thick white fur helps them blend into the snow, while a thick layer of fat under their skin keeps their body temperature stable in the freezing cold of -40 degrees Fahrenheit. But despite being an icon of the icy regions, life for polar bears is not easy, especially as food becomes increasingly scarce. On the ice surface of the Beaufort Sea, an adult male polar bear tracks the scent of a seal through its breathing passages, the fragile thread connecting the seal's life to the air. The polar bear is in no hurry. It memorizes the location, chooses its ambush point, and lies motionless like the ice surrounding it. Sometimes this patience lasts for hours. When the ice surface trembles slightly, it's a sign the seal is approaching. The bear springs up quickly and decisively, shifting its entire body weight onto its target. But the slippery ice caused the slip to miss. The seal vanished into the water in an instant. A silent, unrestrained, but clearly failed hunt. The success rate of such ambushes is only about 10 to 20%. But just one successful attempt is enough to provide the bear with energy for 10 days. Therefore, each charge is a gamble on energy. For polar bears, memory, patience, and timing are more important than the number of attacks. Walruses are an almost invincible opponent. An adult can weigh up to 3,000 pounds, with thick skin, thick layers of fat, and tusks about 3 feet long. These tusks are not only for defense, but also tools for climbing ice, digging snow, and protecting territory. When threatened, walruses don't flee, but gather into a living defensive mass, making even polar bears wary. Polar bears understand this. A slip, a scratch, could cost them an entire hunting season. Therefore, they don't take risks. Instead of approaching directly, they stand on the edge of the walrus herd, silently observing. They wait until the herd begins to move chaotically and agitatedly. That's the most vulnerable moment. Young calves can be separated from the herd, and weaker individuals can easily get lost. But even then, the bear still has to choose carefully. A jab from its sharp tusks can inflict serious injury. The bear targeted a smaller individual, but was immediately counterattacked by a mature walrus. Their heavy bodies slid into the water, forming an impenetrable wall. The attack failed in seconds. The bear lost precious energy in the freezing cold, but there was no way to replenish it. Yet it didn't give up. Because if successful, a walrus could provide up to 150,000 calories, enough to sustain it for days. In this harsh world, it's not the strong who survive, but those who know when to wait and when to retreat. The Arctic doesn't choose the strongest, but keeps those who understand the rules. Polar bears fight not for titles, but for their own survival. There are no fixed enemies, only the weather, hunger, thirst, and the thin line between life and death. Each survival proves that nature is unforgiving to everyone. In the frozen lands of Alaska, where open forests merge into mist-shrouded valleys, a different rhythm of life is waiting to explode. Every step a grizzly bear makes on the ground is a silent warning to all the creatures around it. From tense confrontations to sudden hunts, the world it inhabits is full of fierce and unforgiving moments. Here, instinct is the only law, and each part of its journey unfolds a dramatic picture of the wild. On the pale snow of the late afternoon in Yellowstone, a lone grizzly bear stood in the white expanse. Not far away, a pack of more than a dozen Junction Butte wolves had expanded their formation, forming an encircling arc. They did not hide, but walked straight ahead, each individual keeping a steady breathing rhythm and eyes focused on the same target, fighting for the remaining food. The wolves did not charge all at once. They split into small groups, constantly changing positions and applying pressure from multiple directions. A few made feints, just enough to force the bear to turn its shoulders in the direction they wanted. The increasingly narrowing circles made the space around the bear tense, but not chaotic. The grizzly held its defensive stance. Its shoulders were hunched toward the most dangerous direction, each step pounding the snow firmly and slowly. It did not pursue any individual, just held its center. The tactic was unobtrusive but effective. No openings to be cut off, no wasting energy on futile counterattacks. After several rounds of close quarters, the wolves began to slow down. They understood that the bear would not budge and that the food was not worth the price. One wolf's turned first, and the group retreated in an orderly fashion. Finally, the clearing fell silent. The bear did not chase. It just stood there, breathing evenly on the snow, winning with steadiness, and a defense as solid as Yellowstone. Santa Elena Canyon stretches with high rock walls and narrow, slice-like paths. On one incline, a mother mountain goat leads her calf over small stone steps, barely large enough to support a single hoof. They don't run fast, but each step is steady thanks to their absolute familiarity with the terrain. From the bottom of the slope, a grizzly enters the area. It doesn't charge, but pauses to calculate. Its large weight makes the inclined surfaces dangerous. Every time it shifts its center of gravity, the rubble slides down, forcing it to take each step carefully. The mother goat watches from above, keeping a distance just enough to avoid being surprised. The terrain now becomes a natural boundary. The grizzly tries to turn to a wider patch of rock, but its speed cannot overcome the mountain goat's natural advantage. When the chase ends without any close approach, the air is filled with only a sense of hesitation, and the question lingers like a silent thought. If the meeting had taken place on flat ground, would the balance have tipped the other way? Summer in Alaska marks the return of one of the most important moments of the year. Hundreds of sockeye salmon swimming upstream. They make their way through steep, cold currents, creating a life-giving current that flows into the heart of the boreal forest. For grizzly bears, this is a vital source of nourishment after months of constant movement. Along narrow stretches of river, grizzly bears choose precise locations where the current is compressed, forcing the fish to exert their strength to pass. At that narrow point, they simply stand still. A quick, clean kick is enough to catch the next fish. There is no rush, just the slow, focused observation that bears are accustomed to. The salmon do more than feed the bears. The carcasses left after the spawning season decay on the riverbanks, providing nitrogen and nutrients to the forest floor. This allows plants to thrive, which in turn leads to an increase in insects, birds, and small herbivores. This cycle connects many layers of the ecosystem, and the grizzly bear's future is tied to this regenerative rhythm. As the afternoon fades to a golden yellow, the grizzly catches another salmon. It stands still for a few seconds, the cold water flowing around its feet, the smell of the river breeze mingling with its warm breath. The constant feeding during salmon season is a worthy reward for a patient summer before the bear enters the long months of hibernation, where its body relies solely on the fat stored from the salmon itself. In the lowland forests of North America, grizzly and black bears share the same habitat. Territorial boundaries between them are thin, defined only by familiar foraging routes and brush patches. Black bears are light, agile, and very good at climbing trees. In contrast, grizzly bears are large, with shoulders as hunched as boulders and steps as steady as pressing the ground. When both seek the same food source, the difference in strength becomes obvious. If a grizzly takes a step forward and lets out a low growl, the black bear will usually retreat immediately, not out of blind fear, but because it understands that a direct confrontation will only make it worse. In this forest, the difference in power is established simply and decisively.
Probably not. He's probably too fat.
Right? They can't climb trees.
On a wide prairie near the Yellowstone Dry Creek, a grizzly bear watches a herd of bison from a distance. It takes no time to approach. Only when an adult bison is caught off guard by a momentary change of direction does the bear begin to approach, slowly but deliberately. Its large mass allows it to use the slippery rocky ground and thin layer of cold water to its advantage. As the bear approaches, the bison lowers its center of gravity. Its horns point forward, keeping a distance long enough to gauge its opponent's intentions. The bison counterattacks with short but powerful headbutts, forcing the bear to take a few steps back to avoid losing its balance. The confrontation becomes tense but quiet. Each species uses its natural strengths. At another point, the bear no longer has the upper hand. The bison switches from defense to offense. Its speed on dry ground forces the bear to retreat quickly to avoid a headbutt. The fight didn't last long, but it was enough to show the difference depending on the circumstances. As the two separated, the grasslands returned to silence. There were no invincibles in this land. Every outcome was decided by timing, terrain, and the choices of each creature. In the quiet afternoon forest, the grizzly bear walked slowly between the trees, his body almost blending into the shade. He did not need speed, only patience. Each step was quiet, always focused on the moment that could change the situation. The opportunity appeared when a fawn tripped over a branch, creating a small but enough noise to separate him from the movement of the herd. The fawn lost its balance for a moment, and that gap became the point the grizzly bear had been waiting for. Without charging, the bear gradually closed the gap with a steady pace. For him, success did not come from sudden strength, but from recognizing the mistake and seizing that unique moment of nature. In an open forest in Alaska, two adult grizzly bears approached each other. Each weighed about 800 pounds, with hunched shoulders and heavy breathing. They had not come to hunt. Today's conflict was about territory and reproductive rights, the two most important values in a grizzly's life. They walked slowly, keeping enough distance to survey. A circle formed, not to fight immediately, but to determine dominance. Shoulders raised, heads lowered, each discreet glance showing strength. After a few turns, both were close. There were no long roars, just shoulder and chest thrusts to test their strength. This was not a war of attrition. They were conserving energy, using force only when necessary, because endurance was the deciding factor in victory or defeat. One gradually slowed down, breathing more rapidly. The other kept a steady pace and gained the upper hand. There was no pursuit. There was no final blow. Only the quiet retreat of the underdog. When the dust settled, the deep claw marks in the ground were the last testament to the natural power and immutable rules of grizzly bear life. In every moment of that journey, the grizzly bear appears with silent but steadfast strength. From tense confrontations to small moments of waiting, it lives according to the unpredictable rhythm of nature. Salmon season, chasing season, fighting season, all blend into a vast life cycle. When the night falls on the Alaskan forest, its footprints are still there like a continuing story. A story that never ends, just quietly flows with the wild rhythm of the North.